Ah, yeah. See, look at all the work that's going on. Oh, man. Plus 5, so strong. So, alright, well, that sucks. So what do we do to make up for this? Well, we've never seen this style before, but maybe when we go one racks expansion with Rifleman, what are some things we could do? Well, the first problem we had is that he got forges before barracks, and we couldn't do anything. Well, Rifleman can't really pressure this tower, so I guess there's not too much we can do about that. But what about space control? Our build before was to go barracks, expand, second barracks, forge, third barracks, and then third base around 6:30 and watchtower. What if instead of putting down the watchtower there, we put the watchtower up here? Because if you remember, it's around 7 minutes or 6:45 that Zhao had his +2 armor soldier come out here and start wrecking all of the things. A watchtower would be really effective in helping us keep space here, or at least helping us take efficient fights, or giving us the chance to run away. Another thing to consider is that maybe we could have blocked this third base and made Zhao's economy not skyrocket as quickly, or put a tower here at his fourth base. Maybe we could have had better defensive placement on our watchtowers, like putting the watchtower here, for example. Maybe when we go riflemen and we see that our opponent is going for a mass soldier style, instead of going for mages, which by percentage do less damage, we could go for catapults. We're already going for bonus upgrades, so maybe we could use catapults to kind of sit back and play a more defensive style instead of mages. Okay, so those are the things that you can get out of this replay. Not, oh, well, Zhao came into Etana Circus's base and he just had a lot of soldiers and killed all the things, and then it was a close game, but after the next 15 minutes, Etana Circus lost. No, no, no. I lost at the time of this battle right here. So, let's think about that. Well, let's go try. Okay, so when we quit this game, as we are now, let's think about that. How about putting a watchtower down in the front? How about here? This is now myself versus Jibs. Woo to Jibs, awesome man, creator of the game. This is myself versus Jibs on the same map, Secret Guard. And this is part, as I said before, how to get better, how to get faster, how to get better at the game better. You keep doing the same things over and over. And instead of saying, oh, well, that didn't work, so instead of going rifleman with some upgrades and delaying our tech, I guess we're just going to completely switch to mass soldiers. No, you don't learn how to optimize by making giant, enormous switches from one thing to another. You do the same thing over and over with tiny variations, and those tiny variations enable you to get better in more ways. Alright, so you're going to see the same thing. There's going to be one barracks expand. Jibs is being Jibs, and by that I mean this. Jibs, I've only seen him do a couple of things, but what he does really, really well. And one of those things he likes to do is 6 expand. It's his tower placement in SimCity and the way he puts his house, etc., makes it very hard for you to bust in through his tower if you have soldiers, and it makes it almost impossible, if not impossible, to poke his outlying buildings without getting caught by the tower. So, very good. He also does an early scout to figure out what's going on. It's pretty good. Yup. So, a couple things to note. Jibs puts down his watchtower a little further back. Okay. Now, we're going to see this from my perspective. Remember the games we had against Zhao? Zhao, these soldiers are light. They come in. Oh, there's a watchtower. And this is a pretty solid defensive wall. It's kind of hard to get in here. So, what if Jibs is doing the same thing as Zhao and putting 2 forges down here in a couple of seconds so that we can't get in? He comes out with +2 or +3 armored soldiers and we're unupgraded. Oh man, we're in deep trouble. So, the second barracks goes down. And at 5:25 or so, I'm going to take 2 workers and send them over. It's going to slightly delay my tech. But here's the lesson that I learned from the last game with Zhao. Well, I don't know what he's doing, but let's think about this. If he's going for dragons, I'm okay because I went rifleman. If he's not going, oh, and there's the rifleman right there. So now we get an added bonus. If Zhao were going for soldiers, he wouldn't build a rifleman. But secondly, look at this. We're going to put this worker here and have him do some work by putting up this watchtower. If he puts it down around now, it's going to come up in time to stop soldiers. If he's not putting up soldiers, then it's going to be really effective against riflemen. And we're going to house block his third base. It's going to all this expenditure is about 300 gold. It's going to slightly delay my third base, but it gives me an advantage. The advantage is this. Instead of putting down my third base immediately, it's going to be delayed by about 30 seconds. But here was the plan. Remember, 2 barracks, forge. Well, maybe I can get my third base after doing this small contain. Then I can go ahead and get my third barracks. And sure enough, this third barracks is going to be coming up pretty shortly. And meanwhile, oh man, look at that. I'm actually at roughly equivalent worker count with Jibs because of the way that we timed this out. Now look over here. You see this third base getting destroyed and all these riflemen? These riflemen are upgraded with +1. I almost have +1. Yeah. So it's delayed a little bit because of this. But look at this. Here's the benefit we get out of it. We see this soldier. We kill the soldier. And we have defensive placement. Look at this. We force the catapult to come in here and help in taking out this tower. Meanwhile, this gives us ample time to run away. Imagine if this were the +2 armored soldier. With this being killed, we have plenty of time to run the units away. Huh. Oh, that's pretty cool. Alright, so we learned one thing from our replay against Zhao and used it. We also learned now that our opponent's going for rifleman catapult. So what do you do after this? Well, the other thing I learned from the game with Zhao is that if my opponent is going for soldiers, I don't want mages, I want catapults. And the reason for that is pretty simple. I mean, catapults have area of effect damage like mages, but mages need 50 mana apiece to do damage through Flame Strike, and rather do 50 mana to do 25 damage apiece with Flame Strike, and that's just not a large percentage of a soldier's health. But if my opponent is going for riflemen, then it makes sense to get mages instead, because mages have lower hit points, Flame Strike does a greater degree of damage. It all makes sense. Oh, cool. Look at the slightly delayed defensive placement. Awesome. So, it makes sense, since our opponent is going for riflemen, to go ahead here and go for mages. Alright. Now, if you remember, roughly this point right now, the 11-minute mark or so, is when Zhao came in having... Here, we're gonna cut this back a little bit. Zhao came in with a massive unit advantage in terms of his upgrades and absolutely leveled this fourth base. It was destroyed. I mean, it was hit worse than Haiti in an earthquake. And if you watch the news, you know Haiti gets hit pretty badly by earthquakes. But now we see an interesting thing. Not only does this defensive placement, not only does this opening that we did with the small contain here and the house block delay our opponent's expansion a little bit. That means that we get to keep our gold, and we get to expand ourselves a little later than we would like, but we still get to expand, right? And that's the important thing. Whereas in the game against Zhao, I was roughly 1,000 gold up, but then my fourth base got shut down. In this game, the fourth base doesn't get shut down because these watchtowers provide good defensive placement. Oh, sweet. Meanwhile, this attack is going on. Something that I might take from this game, actually, is that I should have pressed in more for this attack. If you look at the units, I have more units in Rifleman than Zhao, rather than Jibs does. Could have gotten some really nice and effective trades, but didn't. It was my fault. You know, it's one of those things that you just kind of learn over the course of playing games. If we were to analyze this game, we would say such things as, man, look at Jib's defensive placement. It's going to be hard to get in here with riflemen only if he has some catapults and riflemen, and now he's starting up on mages. So maybe next time we take our own 4th base a little more quickly and we take over the catapults a little sooner. Well, that makes sense. So, I think that covers everything, actually. I actually do think that covers everything. I'm sorry to be that guy, but this time, I don't think I'm going to go through the entirety of this replay, because I think the learning objective was achieved. We saw how in Game 1, while I won, there weren't too many adjustments that were made between Game 1 and Game 2. Because I won, you know. If you win, that means that what you're doing works or works well enough, right? Game 2, we saw how I lost due to Zhao opening up with a tactic that I had not seen before. And in Game 3, we see how I took steps to mitigate what would happen if my opponent did the same thing, while still continuing my plan if my opponent didn't do the same thing. It's important to note whenever you're analyzing your losses that you have a plan, an ultimate, from beginning of the game to the end of the game plan of what kind of units, what kind of strategy you want to go for. And when you get defeated, that you don't completely abandon your plan. It's important that instead of abandoning your plan, you make small tweaks such that if you ever go against that same strategy again, you will not be defeated by it, or you will be able in a better position against it than you were the first time you went against it. And in the event that you don't go against it, you're still in a solid position to play your normal plan. You cannot look at a loss and say, oh, well, I lost to double proxy barracks. And then instead of saying something small like, oh, I guess I'll scout at about this time, and he should have a barracks in his base around that time. If instead of a small adjustment like that, you say, well, you know how I fix getting someone proxy 2-barracksing me all the time? I go from whatever I normally do, like castle first, and I just tower rush every single game. It's just not effective. It's much better for you and for your playstyle and for getting better to look at how you lost and make those minor adjustments necessary to go from where you were to where you want to be. Until next time, enjoy Littlewargame. It's bigger than you've ever imagined. Ciao!